What's up, college football fans, quarterback fans? Welcome to another QB Spotlight podcast, video episode, however you're getting this content. Sincerely, thank you for tuning in. It really does mean a lot. We know that your time is valuable. And as always, I'm your host, Stephen Hamner, and this is a place we talk all things quarterback, right? We spend a lot of time talking about college football, but this is just a big quarterback hub where we talk about current quarterbacks, but we also just talk about the landscape of the quarterback position in general. And we have a lot of quarterback coaches on, a lot of current and former pro and college quarterbacks that we've had on, and we're just going to try to keep that train rolling as the season comes on. But today's episode is going to be a little bit different, kind of a special episode. At the end of every show or episode, we have these coaches or quarterbacks offer their advice to the next generation of quarterbacks or younger quarterbacks, right? Or even younger quarterback coaches. And so we're going to take I don't know how long it's going to take, maybe 20-minute, 30-minute podcast, and we're going to kind of mash up all the great advice that we've had from all these awesome coaches. You know what I mean? We've had several Division I quarterback coaches on here, several Division I quarterbacks on here, several pro quarterbacks on here, right? So we're going to take all their advice and kind of just mash it up, and hopefully you enjoy it. And, there'll be a lot of similarities and also some different advice given from these guys. But I think it could be valuable and an insight to the mind of a quarterback. So even if you're just a fan, I think it's cool to be able to see, man, how the quarterbacks process information, and then, the type of advice that they are giving back. And, of course, we're repping our Marshall shirt today. Our friends over at Marshall, thanks for this. But yeah, so we just want to give give an episode where we just kind of mash up all this great advice, especially before the season starts here in a few weeks. But as always, if you like this channel or quarterback content, or if this kind of fits what you're looking for, please consider subscribing to the channel, to the podcast, wherever it's Apple, Spotify, wherever else you can find it, and then like the video and all that stuff. So with that said, you finally don't have to listen to me talk very much today, and we're just going to dive into these coaches and quarterbacks and the great advice that they've given. And to be honest, real quick, a lot of this advice is really good advice just for life as well, and not just for the quarterback position. So with that said, let's get into it.
Man, don't compare yourself. That's good. Don't compare yourself to others. Everybody's situation is different. Control the controllable. Everybody's heard that term. But, man, I'm a firm believer in that. And I think, too, as a quarterback, if you really dive into it and do it for a long time and have an opportunity to play college, I mean, it teaches you about life and how to handle success and how to handle adversity. But just don't compare yourself to others. Everybody's journey happens at different times. And if you get an opportunity after your college or high school days to get an opportunity in college, I would say this too, once again, don't compare yourselves to the guy down the street on what he got. If you get an opportunity to go play college football, ball is ball. Mm-hmm. If you really love it, you're going to have an opportunity to go play. So for the young ones, I say don't compare, put some blinders on and go to work. I think work speaks for itself. And then I think for the college guy that wants to get into coaching, if it's the GA route, QC route, the way I went, or high school, is always understand this. You're always on a job interview. You are always on a job interview from time you're in high school to college. And if you make that decision, if you're in college and you're like, well, I want to be a coach one day.
What would you give? What kind of advice would you give to a kid in your situation a few years ago?
Yeah, the first thing is you have to be the hardest worker you know. If that was one thing I prided myself with in high school, is I had great friends, great teammates, but I knew when I looked at every other kid on my team, I knew that I outworked them every single day. And I was motivated by that. I would look at kids from other sports, and if I saw a basketball player shooting hoops in the morning in the gym, it fired me up because I want to be the hardest working kid in my high school. And that's the first thing. If you're not willing to, sacrifice some things and work your tail off day in and day out, then college football is not for you. So that's the first thing I'd say. If you want it, you got to work for it. Second thing is go where you're wanted. I felt loved and cared for by Wake Forest the first time I talked to them. I felt appreciated. I felt valued, and I still feel that today. So I think it's super important to go where you're wanted as a college football recruit, because there's a lot of people out there I see chasing big offers and going to certain schools, and it wasn't a great fit for them because the coaches weren't really sure if they wanted them. Some offers are committable, some aren't.
Right.
That was one thing I loved at Wake Forest. Every offer they give out is committable, and they told me that
Right.
from the start. So, and I appreciated that from them. I felt valued, felt loved. So, go where you're wanted. And lastly, don't be afraid to go to camps. Like that's where I was recruited, was at camps. I'm a small quarterback. I'm 5'10". I wasn't getting recruited just off my tape alone. I had to go and throw in front of coaches. So, you're never too good to go to camps. I know 4 and 5.
But with that said, I do want to give you just like a quick 30 seconds of wrap up some advice to just younger quarterbacks who are maybe that high school to early college range. Just what's some quick advice that you would give to them as they're kind of making that transition?
I would say don't waste your time looking at other guys as far as their situation, because one, it doesn't pertain to you, and two, you don't know about anything that it took for them to get there. Just like they have no idea what it took for you to get there. So the more you can just chase your own development, and I know that it sounds selfish, but no, it's you need to sit back and figure out how to do this thing, because it's your life. I think as soon as I took my eyes, I remember in high school looking around, seeing guys get offered, and I'm like, man, I'm better than that guy. And I was just looking at them. It was a great source of motivation, but I mean, you look around and you're 25 and you're like, what are these guys doing now? Where's my motivation? It has to be you. You have to chase your own growth, your own path, your own journey. And I think that finding that at a young age would go a long way. Is get around good people that know what they're doing and chase your own development, for whatever that means to them.
What's some advice that you would give to that quarterback?
Man, keep God first. Keep God first, and keep the game in its proper perspective. It's a fun thing to do. It's a fun thing to chase, but it's not your identity. That's something you can do, and it's admirable and it's honorable to try to do that well, to make sure it's in its proper place, though. Also, just that quote from Mike Tomlin is just to do the routine things routinely, really work on those things, and the splash plays will come, the kind of highlights will come. But if I can do, throw that ball under 30 yards accurately on time, I can make great decisions and take off and run if I need to. You're going to have a lot of success. So do the routine things and the footwork, your mechanics, and really hone in on those things.
Chris, we usually ask every guy at the end, any advice to younger quarterbacks. I feel like this whole episode or interview, whatever you call it, is advice to younger quarterbacks. But do you have anything else you want to, just any last parting words you want to throw on for any younger quarterbacks?
I mean, I would say this is that you hear so many people say hey man, don't give up. Hey, chase your dream, right? You hear so many people say this, but people like us and my story, it's living proof that you can listen to people and what they have to say about you, or you can trust in yourself and your ability and your process. But if you're true with yourself and you understand it, you see that your process, to say here's your goal, right? And your process and how you're doing your business is not at your process. You got to be real with yourself. I'm not where I need to be from a work ethic standpoint, so I got to match that. And when you truthfully know you're matching your work with what you want to do with your life, then you can allow yourself to trust yourself and go. So there's levels to it. Don't get me wrong, but I would it's as cliche as it is, man. Put your blinders on, go to work. Take what you need from critics, but at the end of the day, you have a dream for yourself, and why not go at it all the way?
Start on varsity, but guys who are that D1 borderline, what would be your advice to those guys?
That's good. This is a great question. It's harder than it's ever been. It's harder than it's ever been to be a starting Division I or to be a starting quarterback anywhere, Division I, FCS anywhere, because before at Florida State, you'd have Christian Ponder, EJ Manuel, Clint Trickett, Jacob Coker, Jameis Winston, Sean McGuire, all in the same room. You ain't going to have that ever again. You're never going to have that ever again. They're going to transfer. So you're not going to, those four backups for three first rounders, two national champion quarterbacks, and then me. So, I mean, it's going to be hard to be a starting quarterback because of the portal. So all 4 or 5 of us are going to be starting somewhere. So that means 5 other schools that have 10 other quarterbacks aren't starting somewhere. You know what I mean? So it's harder to be a starting quarterback now than it's ever been because of the portal, because of the ability for, and coaches are always looking for experience. So if someone already has experience, then it's, rather than I know what I got in this hand, I don't know what I have in this hand, I'm going to go with I know what I got. So that's just what we're thinking as far as staffs and coaches. And that's that, I don't know if that's advice, but it's harder than it's ever been to be a starting quarterback.
No, I like fringe D1, let's call it. What would be your advice to them?
That's very open-ended, I think, in a good way. The new thing these days, not new thing, it's not new. Hell, people have had quarterback trainers forever, but quarterback trainers, right? There's a lot of them. Who do you choose? Why do you choose them? How do you choose them? Whatever that process is like for you, what I would urge anybody to do is once you find one you like, that you vibe with, that you like their style, and you see the improvement that you're looking for, or you feel like you can be the best version of yourself with that person helping you, stick with that person.
Yeah,
don't be a guy that goes to 4 different people just because a group of receivers is going to throw with this trainer. Don't go show up there. You can't go show up there, but I mean, you're just getting too many voices. We have no problem with guys using trainers, right? No problem at all. Frank's worked with Quincy Carter the last few years. I love Quincy. He and I have a great relationship. I love Quincy. He's awesome. We've got Owen McCown in our room, right? Whose dad played 17, 18 years in the NFL.
Right.
So, that's hard to argue with, right? Yeah. With his dad, but he goes and sees a guy, John Beck, I believe. We've had some guys work with Brad Stanfield. We have some guys work with Yale Vinoy, who's here in San Antonio. I don't care who you work with, because the nature of it now is what they're teaching a lot of different off-platform and creative throws and sometimes arm slot mechanics, those kinds of things, rotation, being a rotational thrower. We don't have the time because of the NCAA calendar. We don't have the time to work on those things with those guys. And so it has become a necessity, and I think a good one if quarterbacks go about it the right way with their development. So from a development standpoint, I would say that. From a recruitability standpoint, you always talk to these kids and you're trying to get an eval on them. And so for us being group of 5, we're trying to eval a kid. Well, he's going to go to camp at Baylor, and he's going to go to A&M, and he's going to go to UT. He's going to go to these camps, which he's not on their board, or for us getting a kid to come here who's got a bunch of FCS offers, who's not on our board, but he wants to go to the UTSA. They're chasing the camp exposure and the logos when what you should be chasing is an eval. You want people to evaluate
competitiveness, the getting your teammates to follow you. One of the big things I always harp on my guys about is bring a receiver to workout. And I made a video that went pretty viral of getting on them about bringing a receiver. And some of them are like, well, I couldn't get anybody. They didn't want to come. I was like, well, as a quarterback, if you can't get a receiver to come catch for you, there's something wrong. I was like, and the first thing we're doing, we're not asking, hey, we're throwing tomorrow at 1:30 and need you to pull up and catch for me. Like, as simple as that. And the fact that they have Twitter, Instagram, and all these other things that they use, it's a simple post. It don't have to be your best receiver that comes to catch. Make your 3rd, 4th, 5th best receiver come catch for you. Get that relationship with them and build them up.
Just a word of advice you would give to them that you wish maybe you had whenever you were 17, 18 years old in college or in high school, excuse me.
The advice I'd give somebody is just something I've learned over the years is the AAAs, accuracy above all. Number 2 would be know the game mentally and play the game as you would as the defensive coordinator. Because that's who you're going against. It's a chess match.
That's good.
He's going to do something, and he's going to see how you react to it. Because a lot of the times they guess. After they open the script, they're guessing.
That's good.
The next thing would
I think one thing for all kids that I like to tell them off the bat is play as many sports as you can and want. I think that's a lot of times these days, like, kids are specializing super early and getting kind of left out of other sports. You learn a lot of skills in other sports, especially at the quarterback position. Like if you're playing baseball or running track, like doing any of those spring sports, and those are big time contributors for you. I mean, a lot of college coaches are looking at multi-sport athletes, but I think in terms of getting recruited, man, I think you gotta put it on tape. I think a lot of kids are getting caught up in 7-on-7 these days, and I can tell you pretty much matter of factly that no college coach or personnel guy is going to be out there watching your 7-on-7 tape and kind of take that seriously. You got to put it on tape in the fall, and in the off season, man, you got to grind. Get out there with your guys, build that rapport with them, hit the weights, and just get prepared, man. And then in terms of just like the actual recruiting, I would just reach out to any coaches you can. Post up your film and have your Twitter all airtight, man. Get all the information in there that anybody will need, and then, as soon as someone shows interest in you, man, no matter how big or small, I think you just gotta show them love right back, And like you were talking about, the biggest profile quarterback and the lowest profile, man. I mean, whoever's reaching out for you, man, to you, just be respectful and just be thankful. And so, we deal with a lot of kids like that. But, just everyone's journey is different. And you gotta.
But going through football, that's the number one thing you got to do as a quarterback. You got to know. You got to own this offense, and you got to be able to be instinctive, because that's what a baller is. A baller can make it happen on 4th and 2. It's 2-point conversion. It's 3rd and 10, -5 because of a false start. You only got 15 seconds left, and you're just savvy, right? And just
a 1 to 2 minute kind of word of advice that you would give to someone who was in your shoes 5-6 years ago.
Yeah, my advice is just to block out the noise first and foremost. If you're listening to a bunch of people and what they say about you, your height, your weight, your physical attributes, then it's just it could get in your head and change your confidence level, and that's so crucial. If you feel like no matter where you're at, if you feel like you could get on the field for whichever team and perform, that's where you want to be. You want to feel like I could play anywhere, and whoever wants to believe in me, I'll perform for. And so my advice isn't work the hardest or do it. Of course you want to work so hard, but it's just about mentally knowing who you are, what you're capable of, and blocking out people who say you can't do this and you can't do that. Because I've heard a million times I'm short, I should go D3, D2. And that's just not what I wanted. I didn't want to do that. So I just kept chugging along. And then another advice I would give is it's different with each JUCO, because some are just not so pleasant, but some are great. I think the junior college route is phenomenal. Obviously, it's worked for me and my 2 brothers, so we feel that way. But I wouldn't just say, go to any junior college and go. You got to do your research on the QB situation, and you got to make sure that you're at least competing for the starting job if we're talking quarterback-wise, because it doesn't matter how good you are. If you're not playing, you're not going to leave there or be seen. So I think if you want to go the junior college route, it's great. If you didn't want to go to what
My advice, it always starts with school. Don't be in that position where you have to go to junior college because of your grades, especially if you're a heck of a really really good player. Make sure you take the school very very serious as soon you get to high school, because every grade matters. Make sure that is not a problem. So make sure you handle your business in the classroom. So when we coaches come there and try to recruit you, we don't have to waste our time making that drive because of your grades are not what they should be. So that'll be my very first thing. Just make sure you're handling your business in the classroom. And if you handle your business in the classroom, everything outside the classroom would be just fine. My second piece of advice is not to go to all these camps that you're not invited to. And just waste money. If you're getting an invite to camps, go to the camps. But if you're not getting these invites to camps, don't go and waste your money, because 9 times out of 10, those coaches are probably not going to look at you. They're probably going to put you in some group that they're not looking at. They're not recruiting. So go to where guys want to see you, and see you throw and see how you compete. And my third advice, just get a make if you can afford it, get a QB trainer. I think working with a QB trainer outside your quarterback coach helps you a long way. I think you get so much further ahead if you get a quarterback trainer at such a young age, because now he can get you right fundamentally. I think because
if that makes sense. What's some advice you would give to a kid who is 4 or 5 years younger than you right now?
Yeah, I'd say for like the situation you explained is that you got to make, like, let's say again, you're not like maybe a 4 or 5 star guy with a big arm, or you're a little undersized, or whatever that may be.
Yeah.
But you got to, and this may be a little harder for somebody, but if you want to have the success that your heroes do, you're going to have to work this hard anyways. But you got to kind of make everything a strength for you. Like everything is something, like there's not one thing you're bad at. If that's something like there's, like in the film room, you're the best guy in the room. If you're in your footwork, it's locked down. Your knowledge of football, but also just kind of like just continuously work on everything, every single part of the game. Like make everything. Like if some guy in the room has got a whole lot bigger of an arm than you, then that's got to be one of the only things that guy's better than you at. And again, you don't have to pick out another guy by any means, but just continuously work on every single part of your game.
All right. So I don't know if that was everyone that we've had on the podcast, but it was a lot of the guests that we've had in the podcast. So to all those guests, sincerely, we thank you for coming on as well. That is some great stuff, and you offered us a lot of your time, which is valuable, and we thank you for the wisdom that you imparted on us and hopefully some quarterbacks watching. But to the people listening and watching, thanks for tuning in, and I hope that there were some good takeaways from this little advice mashup, or whatever we'll call it. But yeah, we'll try to do this maybe every 5 to 6 months whenever we have a lot of really good advice and a really good kind of stream of guests that we're able to offer some different advice. But as always, again, just a big quarterback hub. We'll have more regular content out on a regular basis. Got some really cool stuff coming up, not just from the podcast side of things, but also just the content side of things, the covering the actual season side of things, and the quarterbacks that we'll be kind of covering and keeping up with. But again, if you like this content, please consider subscribing, liking, all that YouTube and podcast jargon. It does really help. But anyways, do all that stuff, and we'll see you next time. Peace.